have a touch the pad. Everybody in the world fused. Yeah. Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. Now, I've been sat in the workshop watching some of Ivan's videos this afternoon, and I thought, hang on, this is no bloody good, Andy. You really need to do some videos. And one of the main tasks currently ahead of me is removing this sort of partition wall in the two single garages which we're trying to open out. It's a load-bearing wall, as you can tell. It's supporting the centre part of the roof. And to remove it, there's some steel work I've got to put up in the roof from one side of the garage to the other. Now, I'm a motor vehicle engineer. I'm not a structural engineer. I stayed well away from all that because there's a lot of mathematics involved, and God, those equations scare the crap out of me, to be honest. So, I've been doing some workings out. Just some basic stuff using, keeping it simple, which is usually the best way forward, isn't it? But before I start ordering a lot of steel, I thought it might be useful, there's nearly 40,000 subscribers on the channel now, to invite you to give me your feedback. Now, don't make it super complex, but I may have missed something, and I just want to put it out there before I actually go ahead and finalize the design, order the steel, and spend a few days drilling and machining and fabricating and welding everything up and installing it, because the last thing we want is the roof to come crashing down. Now, just for your reference, the roof, it's only a single story building, obviously, it's just a garage. All that's being held up is a very lightweight corrugated iron, thin tin. It's not really iron anymore, it's just thin tin, corrugated tin, and some wooden framing. I've estimated the roof load, overestimated probably at about 1,000 kilograms. It's probably a lot less than that, maybe even half. But it's always best to overestimate, because then things don't come crashing down, do they? So I'm going to talk you through my sort of fag packet design, and you can come back to me if you want and give me some pointers, some directions, and how would you do it? How would you remove this centre wall? Obviously, there's a few elements to the brief. We want to try and maintain as much roof height as possible. It's not particularly high in this side of the garage. The other side's got an apex roof, which is a lot better for the hoist, for the motorcycle hoist, but in this side, it's just a little bit too low for that. Yes, some viewers have mentioned, hey Andy, while you're on, why don't you just lift up the whole roof and give yourself some more space? Well, this is only a temporary workshop. This may last me, I would say, 2, maybe 3 years, whilst we build the main new barn at the back of the garden, which will be much, much larger than this. It'll have a full height for a 2-poster hoist. It'll have bays for the motorcycle repairs and all that kind of stuff. I was hoping to put an underground machining shop in there as well. Who knows? Let's see if I win the lottery. It might happen. Okay, well, I'll give you a quick tour of the workshop for those that haven't yet seen it, so you've got an idea of the problem or the task at hand, and then I'll show you what I've sort of come up with, my ideas. Here we go. Okay, right, sorry Ivan, you'll have to hang on a bit. Now, this is the right-hand garage with the flat roof. It's a little bit low, and you can see down this side we've got 4, that's one of them, steel posts supporting that roof. So we can use those to do what we need to do. So we've got 1, 2, working down here, look, very quickly. There's another one, and there's the last one. Brilliant. So I can weld on some plates onto those and mount the I-beams that are going to run across the workshop to support that roof. Now, on the other side, very quickly, you can see down there, look, we've got a concrete wall that goes, I'll give you the dimensions, but it goes about 3 foot off the ground. Then it turns to a timber frame, which then supports the roof. Easy, you say. Okay. Now, the center wall, the one that's going to come out, you can see here, look, we've got, again, the concrete wall, because this side of the garage was built first years and years ago, back in the 1950s, I think. So it's all very old timber. And that's concrete wall supports the center of the roof all the way down. And all that's got to come out. So you can see up there, look, we've got the wooden beams running across. Excuse the wiring for now, it was all done very temporary until this steelwork's been finished. So, what did Andy come up with? Let's take a look. I know it's not a technical drawing, it's more of a fag packet design. We've got down here, those are the steel uprights on the lean-to garage. This is the lean-to area here, and this is the apex, or the garage with the apex roof. And we've got the centre beam here. This is an end elevation looking down the garage, so we'd be stood about here somewhere, and the garage doors are forward of this. And there's going to be 4 of these frames along the length of the garage, 1 for each of those steel poles. They're sort of dictating where these are going to be running across the roof. Now, the biggest issue for me is this area in the centre here. We've got this timber beam, which obviously I want to maintain. I don't want to get rid of that because it's going to be a lot more work to provide support to all the timber beams holding the roof up. If we can provide support to that one beam, job done. Now, obviously, as the load pushes down on this, it's going to really want to implode, and these 2 areas here are going to be pushing towards each other. I've come up with a plan of attack, because to make a steel trough or a U-channel strong enough to withstand that kind of downwards force would be huge. It would be basically I-beam all the way around here, and that would drastically reduce the ceiling height or the roof height in the middle of the garage, which I'm trying to avoid. So I'll come to that bit in a second, but I'm going to basically try and hug the roof line with the I-beam. And the I-beam section that I've chosen, based on the fact that each of these frames will be carrying about 250 kgs of roof weight, plus its own weight of about 100 kilograms. So about 350 kgs pushing down, and there's only a single point of load, because all the loading on this I-beam frame is in the center. Now, also, to make sure that we are actually supporting the weight and we don't get any sag, I've made the design so that we can actually shim at each end. So we've got an area here where we can add shims to raise that beam up and basically, compensate for any sag that may occur or will occur in this I-beam section. And the same again, we've got another bracket here which is in the horizontal plane, where we can add shims to push it a bit further up if need be. On the side with the concrete wall, I've gone for a bit of box section, 80 by 80 box, which basically just sits directly on top of the concrete wall. It's got a brace that runs down the side here that's fixed into the concrete, and it's also got a couple of feet. It's got a foot which will again bolt down into the concrete vertically. So, gives you a good idea of what's going on. Those are the specs for the UB14 I-beam section. And each metre of the I-beam weighs just shy of 14 kilograms, just for your reference. Okay, let's move down a little bit. Right, so just looking now at the pole side, that's the sort of the flat roof garage, sloping roof garage, not the apex. We've got the pole. Now this is a top elevation looking down on the pole. So we've got a steel plate bracket welded in the horizontal plane onto the pole, and then in order to accommodate that adjustment, there's a bit of I-beam that's welded vertically off the beam that runs across the roof, and again with its own footplate and 4 bolts clamping it down onto there. If you look further down here, you'll see that. So we've got the I-beam coming down here, and draw that in if you want. So the I-beam is going to be somewhere around about here, welded to that plate. That plate sits onto the welded plate onto the pole, which has got a gusset underneath it, and the gussets are 150 by 150, and I've gone for 8mm thick plate. These bolts here will be M12 by 50s, and each of these plates are 12mm thick, which allows a bit of additional bolt length for the shims, and of course some decent sized washers either side as well. So that's what I've come up with as a mounting system, and that'll be replicated on the box section on the other side of the garage, on the apex garage support. Now, as regards the centre sort of support for the middle of the garage, that is just over here. Just bear with me a second. There we go, look. Okay, so that's going to be made out of 12mm plate, and I've got the end pieces are 140 by 200. That's the size of the trough. We're sort of looking at it here where the wooden beam is coming towards us and away from us through there. Now the problem is, under the weight of the roof, this is going to want to bend inwards, and putting a bolt through here is completely futile. In fact, all the bolt will do is cause that to pull in even further. It'll increase the force pulling that forwards. So that bolt is going to sit inside a steel tube. Quite a thick wall, probably 4 or 5mm thick wall, and I'll be drilling through the timber. Now the timber, sorry for not having all the right colour pens, let's try a red one in here. The timber itself, we've got a piece of timber which runs up there like that, inside that trough, and we've got another piece of timber that's running across here. So all I need to do is drill through that timber, a clearance hole. That piece of steel tubing will then go from here to here and be clamped into place using a bolt, probably an M12 bolt again. And that should keep those two plates apart and provide the support that we need to prevent that the two I-beams, one either side of this U-channel, from basically coming downwards. Need your ideas on that, because I don't want to be replacing that timber work, but I don't mind putting some holes through it. Now, the connection between this U-channel, which is pretty beefy stuff, onto the I-beams either side will be some, again, 12mm plate. They're obviously going to be shaped to cope with the angle of the beams. The angle of this beam on the apex roof is a lot more steep, because we're actually going to maintain the apex shape to keep the steelwork above the lights. And on this side it's quite a shallow gradient, so I've not really drawn that in, but it will be something probably like that. They'll need to be trimmed a little bit. But these are 12mm thick plates, 120 by 100 approximately, and these two holes will be probably about 80mm apart, something like that, 70 or 80mm apart, to give it decent support. And those plates on either side will be welded into position, because obviously we've got nowhere behind to affix bolts because there's timber in the way. One more bit, let's get rid of the glove. Just down here, this is the piece that will fit on top of the concrete wall on the right hand wall of the apex garage. So you've got your concrete wall, basically is just down here. There's the concrete wall, and this is 80 by 80 box, 5mm wall, and again it has the same mounting system for the I-beam, and you can see there's a piece of I-beam welded on in the vertical position to allow for that horizontal mount. Plus, at the top of here we've got a wooden lintel that sits there, so that's again another reason why it's a bit offset. I can't sit the I-beam on top of here, and if I was to bring the I-beam down, then again we'd lose some more ceiling height. But I don't mind having this kind of arrangement, you know, behind the racking. That's quite easy to do. And just to provide this some kind of support, we've got these two plates. One's a foot plate, which will bolt straight down into the concrete on top of that concrete wall, and then we've got another plate that runs down the side with two more bolts on each. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting project, and it's probably going to take me 3 or 4 days to weld up all the steelwork, and then probably another couple of days to install it all. So there you go, just a quick insight into one of my tasks that is up and coming. I've managed to take some leave off work around about the end of April, so I've got about 10 days to get all this work done, and obviously I'll get all the steel work, all the steel stock here ready so I can crack straight on the next day once I get home from work on the Friday night. But before I sign anything off and place a steel order, I thought it would be prudent to ask you guys and girls what you think of that design. Now, in my opinion, the weakest point isn't going to be my welding. There's no problems with my welding. It's not really failed in the past. The weakest point is that center trough that's holding or cradling that longitudinal timber that runs front to back, you know, the full length of the workshop. That's going to want to be sort of, you know, as the roof pushes down, it's going to try and do that and sag down, and that's why I was putting those pipes, those big thick pipes inside. It may even be something, a pipe that I'll knock up on the lathe to give it more meat, you know, a bit more strength. And then the bolt really is just there to keep it located. It's not really applying any force to the, you know, or pulling in force to those plates, because the pipe's there to oppose that. So let me know what you think. It's all down to you guys. Much appreciate your help, and just stick it down in the comments and I'll be really eager to see what you have to say. But please don't go into great long reams of equations and sums and that kind of thing. To give you an idea, the span of that whole frame from one side of the garage to the other is 5.6 meters. That's the width of this garage. That's a critical factor. The weight bearing down, I've estimated about 350 kgs, including the frame, the I-beam steel frame. And what else? What else is important to know? I'm not going to be hanging things off it. I'm not going to be using it as a hoist to take out engines and so on. So I don't need to worry about that too much. This framework is merely there to hold the roof up. Now, of course, somebody may decide to walk across the roof. That could be me. So maybe we need to factor in a bit of safety, additional loading safety on there, so that it's not going to cause any problems. But the way I understand I-beams is it's all about what deflection of the I-beam is acceptable. You know, that dictates how thick the I-beam needs to be. If it had a story above, I reckon it was going to have to be a 180 mil I-beam, but it doesn't. So a 150 should be okay, I think. You tell me, but don't get too complicated. Otherwise I'll lose interest and just get on with it. Alright crew, well thanks for watching. Only a short video, but I just thought I'd keep you updated as to how the workshop's going. Things are rolling along. Lots more videos to make, for sure. And who knows, I may well be doing another live stream next week. We'll wait and see. Okay, if you enjoyed the video, why not click on the subscribe button? You'll see a little gear icon turn up. Click on the gear icon, then tick the box and turn on notifications. And our friends at YouTube, well, they'll send you an email as and when I upload any new videos. You'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Yes, Google Plus is just about to disappear, so it's still there at the moment, but only for another couple of weeks. A week, maybe, if you're lucky. What else? There is a Patreon page. You can go onto there, Andy Mechanic. There's a little link on the home page on YouTube where you can click onto it. It'll take you through. I'll put you a link in the description as well, and you can read all about up-and-coming projects. The garage project is on there, but I haven't updated it for ages. This video actually is the most up-to-date thing there is on the garage, on the refurbishment and alterations on the workshop. But feel free, have a read through. There's history of all the tool girls, how the Andy Mechanic channel came to be, and like I said before, up-and-coming projects. If you'd like to become a patron, you can do that through the Patreon page. Any donations that come through are much appreciated, and it's your donations that help to keep this channel going, that's for sure. If you do decide to donate, please don't send more than you can afford. Alright crew, well, until next time, cheers, over and out. And you get the